What's up, everybody? So it's been a while since we've been in the driveway working on cars, but this is where we're going to work on the NA drift car today. What we're going to do is we're going to put, I keep calling it a angle kit, but it's not really an angle kit. I just got some rack spacers to give me a little bit more angle. I also got some Z33 tie rod ends. So here's the tie rod end with one of the rack spacers on it already. We're going to be using one of these on one side, and we're going to be using one of the small rack spacers on the other side, which I can't seem to find at the moment, but they're in here somewhere. So we'll get to that. But first of all, let's see what it looks like at full lock right now. So here's what it looks like from the front without any kind of angle. As you can see, the wheels just barely point out past the front fender, so we'll use this as a comparison for when after we put the angle kit on. And then let's take a look at the back of this one. So as you can see, not very much angle at all. So yeah, you definitely get a little more angle out of the 240. Fender tires stick out past the fender, so this is why everybody likes to use 240s. Well, one of the reasons. Here's the other side sticking out in the back. You can see when this tire is angled out towards the fender, it almost completely clears the fender. So as you can see, you definitely get a little more angle out of the 240SX. I also did go ahead and put down some blue tape. I'm going to try to hopefully keep that there so that we can get an idea of how much more angle we get. If I want to go much farther than this, I have to get knuckles. So we'll see what happens. This is going to do us for this season, but maybe after this season we might look into that if we continue to drift the 300CX. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by jacking the front of the car up, taking the wheels off, and removing the tie rods. So I did the same thing on the other side, just went ahead and removed them. The inner tie rods were a little tough to get off. I put a pipe wrench on them and then kind of hit them with a hammer a couple times to break them loose, and then they came loose pretty easy. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're installing because it was a little confusing to me, and I wanted to make sure that anybody that watched this understood. So we have two kinds of spacers here. We have this thread-on style spacer, which is obviously thicker. You can see the gap here. And then we have this smaller spacer. I think this is 7 millimeters. So what happens is we're going to end up using one of each of these. So obviously you're thinking to yourself, why not just use two of the giant spacers? Because you'll get way more angle. Well, what happens is the rack itself only has so much movement. Now, I verified this myself. So if you want to do it when you pull your car out, feel free and do whatever you need to do. But trust me when I say the rack only moves so far. When you put this spacer on your passenger side, it will sink into your rack just enough to where you get this full advantage of this piece here. If you put this on your driver's side, the rack will bottom out before this piece even touches your steering rack. So basically it's not doing anything. So what you do is you run this little guy on that side, so you get the little bit more angle out of the driver's side and you get most of your angle out of the passenger side. All right, so the way they work is obviously on the passenger side, you're gonna thread this in. I was told to use blue thread locker here because you cannot use the lock washer anymore. I'm using red thread locker because this is not something that I will be disassembling anytime in the near future. So basically, you put some red thread locker in here, you screw this into your rack on the passenger side. Put some red thread locker on this, you screw it into here. Boom, you're done. Put your outer on, reconnect it, you're all good to go. On the driver's side, you're basically just gonna take this, put some red thread locker on here, slide it over, and screw this right on the edge. Well, I almost lost it. And screw this right on the edge like that. And that is the most angle you are gonna get out of this stock rack in this C32. I have seen people use knuckle kits. I'm not sure how that works. I don't know if you have to change your rack or what, but if we keep drifting the 300, we're probably going to be looking into that. So yeah, but for right now, this is what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and thread these in, and we'll go from there. You also are still using these stops. They do not affect your angle. You maybe lose a tiny bit from this one because, as you can see, it's a little bit thicker than the spacer, but it's not going to be a significant amount. So the rubber goes facing in. We're going to screw that on first. Alright guys, so what I'm having an issue with right now is I bought the Z33 tie rod ends, which are a little bit shorter. Right now my steering rack is centered, so there's, you know, turning the wheel and a tire, it goes about 3 1/4 rotations. So I have it turned back about 1 5/8, and as you can see, this wheel looks pretty straight, and I have plenty of adjustment in my tie rod end. That's the side with the big spacer on it. On this side, right now, I don't know if you'll be able to tell this on camera or not, but this tie rod only has 4 threads. The outer tie rod end only has 4 threads on right now, and I can see that this is still towed out. So in other words, this tie rod on this side is too short. Interesting. So I'm not sure what the deal is. I don't know if, you know, I never checked to see if the tie rods were different lengths for the left side and the right side. I'm pretty sure they were the same, but I think I'm going to go ahead and measure them. If they are the same, then maybe I'll put the big spacer on this side also, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet, so I will let you guys know what's going on here in a second. Alright guys, so the website that I was using as a guide to put this on said that you needed to use one of the big ones and one of the little ones. They sell them as one of the big ones and one of the little ones, so it all kind of made sense. But my issue is I got the Z33 tie rods, which are shorter, which were recommended by the person from the website that I was following. And what's happening is when I have my steering rack centered, this wheel is straight, but this one I couldn't get to be anywhere near straight. I mean, it was so far off I could visibly tell that it was not straight. And that was with only 4 threads threaded onto the outer tie rod, which obviously isn't cool. So what I did was I just went ahead and mocked it up with 2 of the big spacers. Now, it is correct that this big spacer is not going to give me any more angle. The rack bottoms out before this big spacer is going to be used. But the Z33 tie rod ends are too short to not use this big spacer. It makes them too short. Now, I could adjust this wheel. I could adjust my passenger side wheel. It has plenty of adjustment that I could just make it so it works. I could make it so it works with the Z33 tie rods, but I'm going to be losing out on a little bit of angle because then my steering wheel isn't going to rotate at its full capacity. Or actually what would really happen is I would be able to turn farther one direction than the other direction. I don't want that. I want the full angle both directions as much as I can get, because this thing is terrible with the angle to begin with. So I'm going to use the other big spacer. It looks like it's going to work. I don't think I'm going to have any problem aligning my car. If I were you, what I would suggest is, and I can't verify that this would work properly, but I would use the big spacer and the little spacer on the driver's side, just like I was told to. Grind your bump stops off, and then still use your Z32 tie rod ends. Or, if you can do it, get one Z33 end and one Z32 end. Then you would be fine. I'm going to go ahead and get this all put back together, and then we'll check the angle and see how it goes. Alright guys, so I started to think that maybe because my suspension wasn't loaded, that once I loaded my suspension it was going to tow in my, it was going to do something. It was going to mess up the eyeballed alignment I have, but as far as I can tell, it's sitting on the ground right now and they still look pretty straight. I mean, obviously I can't eyeball an alignment, but you know, they look pretty straight to me still. They maybe are towed in a little bit, which is fine. I have plenty of threads of adjustment both directions, so I'm cool with that as long as it's not super crazy. What we're going to do now is we're going to turn that wheel and see how much more angle we got. I literally have not even checked yet. So as you can see, there's a huge difference. This was our old line, where the end of our wheel was. This is our new line. So I'm going to say that's probably at least 10 or 12 degrees. I'll do some calculations and some measurements, and I'll put it on the screen somewhere like here, I guess. But anyway, yeah, definitely worth the $55. Well, I guess $110 since I had to use the 2 big spacers. The next thing we're going to do is get the steering wheel realigned, and then we're going to get the front end alignment, and hopefully all goes well at the front end alignment and we don't have any issues. We are here getting the rack centered digitally and our front end alignment, so hopefully all goes well here and we will be on our way to centering our steering wheel. Front end alignment is done. The car feels great. Now we got to center the steering wheel. As you can see, this is what it looks like when it's straight, so we got to get it that way a little bit more. Alright guys, so here's what our angle looks like now. So obviously you can see, definitely got a lot more angle out of it. So hopefully that'll help with the drift event, and I'll show the comparison up on the screen here. Alright guys, so that does it for this mod. A little bit more steering angle, rack spacers figured out, everything good to go, rack centered, steering wheel's pretty centered. So yeah, we're all good to go. I'll see you guys at the drift event. If you like the channel, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.